Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, Billy Bob. Welcome, Gigi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dr. Dieter, coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas. Today, we're going to be talking about how all the chronic medical conditions. Hey, Femi, welcome. Thank you for joining live again. Monique, welcome. King, welcome. Ray the Music, welcome. My name is Dr. Dieter, and today I'm going to be talking about how the chronic medical conditions that we face today are rooted in what we call metabolic dysfunction and energy deficiency. Metabolic dysfunction and energy deficiency, which stems from two things: insulin resistance and dysbiosis. And how those two things result in all the chronic medical conditions that we face. So, my name is Dr. Dieter. I'm board certified internal medicine physician. I'm a board certified pediatrician, double board certified in those fields. I'm very passionate about helping people to be able to live healthy. So, welcome, bless, welcome, me, welcome. I want to give a shout out to my international audience. If you're joining me from Canada, Colombia, Dominican Republic, welcome. Mexico, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, welcome. We're going to be talking about how chronic medical conditions as a result of energy shortages called metabolic dysfunction that come from insulin resistance and come from dysbiosis. We'll talk about these two things and how these two things drive all the chronic diseases that we face today. If you're joining from Europe, my European audience, maybe you're joining from Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic. Maybe you're joining me from Denmark, from Estonia. Maybe you're joining from Finland. Maybe you're joining from the United Kingdom. Maybe you're joining from Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Latvia, Luxembourg, Lithuania, Netherlands, Norway, Poland. Welcome to my people from Europe. If you're joining from the Republic of Ireland, I met somebody from the Republic of Ireland this week in Cancun. If you're joining from Romania, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, welcome again to my people in the United Kingdom. Yesterday, I had two people in the United Kingdom who joined my live. We're going to be talking today about how our chronic medical conditions as a result of metabolic dysfunction and energy shortage that comes from two things: insulin resistance and dysbiosis, and how that now drives chronic medical conditions we're facing. If you're joining us from the Asia Pacific, if you're joining from Australia, Hong Kong, China, other than that, somebody joined from Japan, all these issues are issues throughout the world. Modern diseases that we face, have a common root throughout the world. Whether you're in Malaysia, or New Zealand, or the Philippines, or Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, all those things are modern diseases that we're experiencing throughout the world. So today, in my talk today, I'm going to talk about how this modern disease are rooted in metabolic dysfunction and energy deficiency that result in all these diseases. And what you can do, and I'm going to teach specifically about the nutraceutical product and how the nutraceutical product is helping to reverse the cause of the problem. Lastly, if you're joining us from the Middle East, you're in Egypt, you're in Jordan, you're in Saudi Arabia, maybe you're in the United Arab Emirates, maybe you're in Oman, maybe you're in Kuwait, welcome. And I'm not gonna forget my folks who are right here with me in the United States. I am doing this from Fort Worth, Texas, Lone Star State, Texas. So I'll start with the South. If you're joining us from the South, from Texas, drop a shout out in the chat. Maybe you're joining from Arkansas, from Louisiana, from Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky. Welcome, Alabama, Virginia, West Virginia, the Carolinas. I spent 7 years of my formation in North Carolina. I sharpened my teeth as a medical doctor in North Carolina. Trained in Austin, Texas. Woo-hoo! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so I spent 7 years in North Carolina, did my residency in North Carolina, and worked in North Carolina for 7 years before moving to Texas. So North Carolina is dear to me. If there's a North Carolina in the house, give me a shout out. If you're in Delaware, Florida, Maryland, welcome. Also to the people in the Midwest, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, welcome. Wisconsin, Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, welcome. The Dakota, where there's North Dakota, South Dakota, welcome. I see Miss Charmaine, first time here. Charmaine, you are so welcome. I'm glad to have you on our live for the first time. Charmaine, let me know where you're joining us from. And if you're joining us from the Northeast, maybe from Connecticut, maybe from Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Kentucky, Charmaine, welcome. I have never been to Kentucky, but one day I hope to, touch foot in all, or touch the ground in all the U.S. states. So hopefully one day I'll make it to Kentucky. So after giving all those welcomes again, I will say, reintroduce myself. My name is Dr. Dieter. I hold board certifications in 2 fields. I'm a board certified international as well as a board certified pediatrician. Today we're going to talk about how all the chronic medical conditions that we face today are rooted in what we call reversible metabolic dysfunction. And that reversible metabolic dysfunction is coming from 2 things. Those 2 things, result in energy shortages that drive all the chronic diseases that we're facing. Please, what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to talk today, I'm going to use these 2 views. I'm going to use you where you're going to see the board, some teaching, so I'll use this view and the other view where you don't have a whiteboard. So I'm going to go back and forth and back and forth. And I'm going to ask that you do is that you write. If you know of anybody who's suffering from any chronic medical conditions, what I'll ask that you do is you invite them, share this live and invite them to join, because we're going to cover a lot of things today. And I hope that what we cover opens your minds, to the state of our current modern day diseases, why we have these diseases and what we can do to prevent it. So I'll start by putting up this slide. There we go. All right, can you guys see this? If you can see this well, give me a thumbs up that you can see this. Adeline from US, welcome Adeline. Tell me where you're joining. Okay, great. I can see that. You guys can see that. Okay, I'm going to flip over to the board. Can you let me know whether you're able to see the full board? Are you able to see the full board, or does the picture cover the board, prevent you from the board? Are you able to see the full board? This full board. Are you able to see all of that? Or the picture that I have up there is obscuring the view of the board. If it's obscuring, just let me know obscuring. I tweak the picture. If it's not obscuring, just give me a thumbs up. So today I'm going to do something really different that I've not done. I'm going to take you through a detailed presentation that I've not done. So I want to make sure that I have, the technology and everything working well, so you guys get the most that you can get out of this. Please, if you see a full board, and the picture that I have up on the screen is not blocking the view, please give me a thumbs up. If it is blocking the view, drop a comment block. Let me know. So let's see. Okay, all right. I see. Top of the cover by picture. Okay. Let's do this. How about that? Is that better? Is that better? Perfect. And you're able to see the writing on the board, and you're able to see the writing on the slide. If you're able to see the writing on the slide, okay, good. Wonderful. Thank you, Dalton. Thank you, Dalton. Thank you, love is the answer. Great. Now we have a great way to be able to do this presentation. Thank you for your feedback. Now, I am going to flip over to the board view in the slide that you see here. That slide that you see right there, I'm going to explain it. Now, we now have, strong evidence that most of the chronic medical conditions that we face today are coming from two things, right up there in the slide. You have insulin resistance, and another thing called dysbiosis. That's what that slide is. Dysbiosis. Those two things, insulin resistance and blood dysbiosis, these things cause something called metabolic dysfunction. You know what metabolic dysfunction is? Metabolic dysfunction is just simply a fancy medical term to say energy shortage. So when you hear metabolic dysfunction, it means energy shortage. Okay, so there are convincing evidence that most of our chronic medical conditions are coming from energy shortage, and then all of that energy shortage leads to our chronic diseases. All of them lead to our chronic diseases. So insulin resistance, number one. And this thing here we call dysbiosis, which I'm going to explain later. Both of them result in an energy shortage in the body, what we call metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction is an energy shortage in the body. That energy shortage now leads to all the chronic diseases we have. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all that stuff. Now, I'll flip over and explain to you guys something. See, every system in the body. So I just all the modern chronic diseases, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the sleep apnea, the gout, the high cholesterol, all those diseases come from metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction simply means an energy shortage in the body. That energy shortage in the body drives all these diseases. You see, every system, our smallest entity of a body is called the cell. A collection of cells make tissues. A collection of tissues make systems, and the system makes the body. So the simple definition for a disease is a cell that has malfunctioned. Take that in. The simple definition for a disease is a cell that has malfunctioned. The number one reason for a cell to malfunction is when it doesn't have energy to function well. Every cell in the body requires energy, a source of energy to be able to function and do its duties. And when it lacks that energy, it malfunctions. A cell that has malfunctioned is the definition of a disease. Do you guys follow so far? I'm going to cover a lot here today. Try to break this down, for you to understand why we have the modern diseases that we do. So if you follow so far, and it's okay for me to hit the gas, I'm going to ask you guys all the time. Drop a comment, hit the gas. If you're just joining, my name is Dr. Dieter. I'm talking to us today about how most of the chronic medical conditions we face today are rooted in reversible metabolic dysfunction and energy shortage that drives disease. Lamont, I got you. I am gonna hit the gas. So let's start with insulin resistance. Let's take this by itself, insulin resistance, and talk about insulin resistance. Just this by itself. Let's take insulin resistance and talk about it. So we'll single out insulin resistance. Insulin resistance. All right. Now, you may ask me, what is insulin resistance? Okay? To be able to understand what insulin resistance is important to understand what insulin does in the first place. Okay? Insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? You have to understand what the hormone insulin does. How many of you guys have heard of the hormone insulin? If you've heard of the hormone insulin, drop a comment in the chat. How many of you guys have an idea of what insulin does? If you do, drop a comment in the chat. I'd like to know what you know of insulin. Okay, great. Once you've heard of insulin, welcome, Queen. Anything you know about insulin, it helps regulate sugar levels. Fantastic, precious, welcome. Time Delton says, tell me. Let me tell you. Now, I'm going to flip over. Let me tell you. To understand what insulin resistance is, understand what insulin resistance is, it's important to understand what insulin does, okay? Insulin is a very, very critical hormone in our existence. I call insulin hormone numero uno in terms of importante. There is no hormone in the whole of the human body that trumps insulin in terms of importance. It is very, very, very important. Why, you may ask me? Why? This is the reason why insulin is that important. The job of insulin, this is what insulin does. The job of insulin is to mobilize, glucose out of the blood to the cell. You see, when we eat, the byproduct of everything that we eat, the calories we take in after digestion and absorption occurs, is converted to glucose. That glucose, that glucose is then, released into the blood. When the glucose is released into the blood, somebody said the job of insulin was to, control blood sugars. So when glucose is released in the blood, what insulin does now, it mobilizes glucose out of the blood. So glucose is in here in the blood. It mobilizes glucose out of the blood into the cell. The glucose gets to the cell. there is a spatial organelle in the cell called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is considered to be the powerhouse of the cell, the energy churning unit of the cell. It makes energy. When insulin mobilizes glucose out of the blood, when it gets in the cell, it gets in the mitochondria, which is the power of the cell. And in the mitochondria, the glucose goes through a complex series of reactions called electron transport chain, with the result being the production, the result being the production of an energy called ATP. ATP is energy. It's an energy molecule called ATP. That's the job of ATP, mobilizing glucose out of the blood into the cell, so that energy can be produced through passing it through the electron transport chain in the mitochondria, releasing ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. It's an energy molecule. So it brings me back to why I say insulin is hormone numero uno in terms of importance. Insulin is like the CEO of the body. Why? Because insulin does this. Because of insulin, we produce energy. Because of insulin, we produce energy. I remember I said that every cell in the body requires energy to function. Every cell, every system requires energy. For a cell to do its job requires energy. For me to breathe in, breathe out requires energy. For me to gesticulate with you, my muscles, the muscle cells require energy. Every cell in the body requires energy. And insulin secures that energy production. When you do not have energy, critical systems break down. Imagine your body like a city powered by energy plants. When those systems, when those energy plants function efficiently, the city thrives, lights turn on in the city, traffic flows. But when something malfunctions, when the power plant breaks down, lights turn off in the city dims, and the critical systems break down. Translate that to the body. When there is a lack of energy, the cell doesn't thrive, critical systems break down, and you have disease. So insulin is so important because it helps us to have energy. And when you have energy, the cell functions. A lack of energy causes malfunction, which is disease. So what I call insulin is like the CEO of the company. Think about the company. Think about the peak right here. Right? Insulin sits right at the peak. It dictates the structure and smooth functioning of the company, the body. Without insulin, you and I are in trouble. It is that important of a hormone. Okay, that is what insulin is. I'm going to switch over and make sure that you guys are following. Do you follow? Do you follow? If you follow that information on the importance of insulin, then you're going to understand well now when I break down what then is insulin resistance. Love is the answer. Said yes, great. Now let's go back to the body. Now that you understand what insulin is, what the job of insulin, what then is insulin resistance? What then is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is a breakdown in this process. When there is a breakdown in this process, anywhere where there is a breakdown in this process of mobilizing glucose out of the blood in cells so that energy can be made, anywhere where there is a breakdown, we say you have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a breakdown in that process. Now, what causes a breakdown? To be able to, if you have a car and the car, breaks down and you have to take it to the when you take the car to the mechanic, the very first thing that the mechanic does is that the mechanic has to run a diagnostic to find out, okay, what caused Femi's car to break down? When the mechanic runs the diagnostic and knows what causes the car to break down, then the mechanic now knows what to do to fix the problem. So we just defined insulin resistance. It's a breakdown of this process. That person is gonna ask the doc, what caused the breakdown? So what causes insulin resistance? If you know what causes insulin resistance, when I go further in this talk and I begin to explain to you now how the breakdown can be fixed, you now understand. So let's get to it. What causes the breakdown? The insulin resistance. And so let's put that right. Well, before I show you what causes the breakdown, I want to show you when you have insulin resistance and you have a breakdown, you have that insulin resistance, you're going to have diseases like this. This is what happens. That consequence of insulin resistance, okay? It causes you to have all those diseases. Insulin resistance, insulin here. Insulin resistance causes you all of the diseases that you see above. When you have a breakdown, you have high blood pressure, you have cancer, you have diabetes, all these diseases. Some people may look at that slide and be surprised. PCOS, fatty liver, Alzheimer's, migraines. You know, you may be surprised to find cancer on that list. Some people think that cancer is bad luck. I hate to break it to you. Cancer is not bad luck. Cancer is the result of energy deficiency. The systems in our body to correct for cancer. When your DNA has a mutation, you know, the body has a system to correct that mutation before the mutation propagates into cancer. That system is called the DNA repair system. For DNA repair to take place, it requires energy. So if you have sufficient energy, because insulin resistance cannot repair that damaged DNA, it propagates into a cancer. So all those diseases you see, I don't want you to hear about insulin resistance and think it's diabetes. No, diabetes is just one leaf from the tree that is insulin resistance. You know, all these other diseases as a result of energy deficiency. And remember, I define the disease as what disease? The disease is a cell that has malfunction. As simple as that. And the number one reason why the cell malfunctions is because of lack of energy. So that's what happens, you know, when you have resistance. Right there. We will go into talking about what causes insulin resistance in the place. Let's talk about the breakdown. How does the breakdown occur? Remember, I said if you take a car to a mechanic, and the first thing that the mechanic has to figure out when your car is broken down is how the breakdown broke down. So let's go to it. Let's talk about how the breakdown resistance occur. Okay, how did that occur? And please feel free, you know, if at any point I'm going too fast or I am in this view and you want to drop a question and I go back to the next view where I can see my screen, I'll be able to answer that question. So how was the breakdown? How was it called? Let's get to it. There are two ways in which we develop insulin resistance. The breakdown of insulin resistance or called with breakdown. Or called two ways. The first what we call fat, okay? Too much fat. The second, and then the first is the second, too much insulin. Too much insulin. That's how the breakdown in resistance cause. First, too much fat, then results in too much insulin. And I'm going to explain. You guys have heard the saying. How many of you have heard of the saying too much of a good thing is a bad thing? Drop a comment on that. Well, too much fat and too much insulin really depicts that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Let me explain to you how this causes a breakdown in that process. You know, we need fat. Fat is important. It's important. Okay? We need fat as an ultimate source of energy. You see, our body has, I'm going to close this and just use that. Our body has two sources of energy, glucose and fat. In the when we're active and metabolism is up, you know, the body uses glucose principle. 80% of the body's needs is glucose as a source of energy. Well, you know, use glucose to be able to make ATP. At night time when we're sleeping and our body demand is low, our activities are low, glucose levels are low. When glucose levels are low, the body has to switch, you know, its fat, its source of energy to fat. You know, instead of using glucose to make ATP, the body now switches to using fat to make ATP, that energy. You need fat, so fat is important. But too much fat is not good. And how do we get too much fat? By what I call chronic nutrition. You know, breaking it down, eating too much. You know, unfortunately, we eat way more calories today than our ancestors did. We're consuming 20% more calories today than our ancestors did, you know, 100 years ago. You know, we're consuming 33% more sugar than our ancestors did 100 years ago. They say in one can of a soda drink, there is enough sugar in one can of a soda drink that our ancestors would have drank in the whole lifetime. So the next time you pick up a can of your favorite soda drink to drink, remember that when you're drinking that, you're consuming an equivalent of sugar that your ancestor would never have consumed in the whole lifespan. So too much calories results in fat. What happens? Does that happen? Eat, right? He knows the amount of calories that we need. I'm going to flip over to this. What do you know the calories that we need? So when we eat, any excess calories is converted to fat. You know, any excess calories that the body doesn't need is converted to fat. There's a good fat, what we call subcutaneous fat. Face of fat that you can use. That's good. Anything excess of that, you know, the body takes that fat. You know what the body does? The body takes that fat and goes and stores that in the cell. This is a bad thing. I'll flip back to the box. So it's normally supposed to look like this. Okay? A cell is not supposed to look like this. Normal. When you consume calories now, all the excess calories that we consume are converted into fat. The body now takes that fat, stores it in this cell. I'm going to make a replica of the cell. This is the cell. The body takes it and stores that fat in this. Right? When the body stores that fat in that cell, it becomes a problem. Remember what the job of insulin is? Is to have glucose in the blood. You know, is going to the cell and tell this cell, hey, I got glucose in the blood. Take out glucose. You know, the cell take glucose so that ATP can make. Now, you know the cell that is what I call laden. Okay, laden. The cell is fat. Now, insulin comes to this cell and knocks on the door of this cell. Hey, cell, I got glucose in the blood. I want you to take it up so that we make ATP energy. You know what the cell calls insulin? What, are you kidding me? Insulin, I don't got any room. I'm so filled with fat. I wouldn't know where to put glucose if I open my doors. I have no room in the thing. That's what the cell tells me. And the cell is telling the truth. All this fat is now occupying the space of the cell that glucose would have gone in. And the cell says no. So the cell doesn't open the door for insulin, so insulin's command. So glucose is not getting into the cell. When glucose is not getting into the cell, glucose accumulates in the blood. When glucose accumulates in the blood, it's not going into the cell. This process, I'll put an X here. Let's do an X here. Process, of glucose getting into the cell, you make ATP happen. Because this cell is filled with fat. So you have a breakdown in insulin, a breakdown in producing energy because the cell is filled with fat. And guys, I'll flip over. This cell acting like that's filled with fat. It is somebody who had eaten too much on Thanksgiving. I know the Canadians just celebrated the Thanksgiving Sunday. If there are any Canadians in the house, shout out. In America, we're having Thanksgiving next month. How many of you guys have ever eaten much on Thanksgiving? If you have, I have, not once, not twice, I've eaten several times in the past too much on Thanksgiving. If you ever had that feeling of stuff on Thanksgiving, drop a comment and stuff in the chat. The point that I'm trying to make is that this cell is feeling so stuffed, like it has had too much to eat on Thanksgiving. When you feel the feeling of full and so stuffed, you just feel yucky. You wish you had not eaten that much. When you have that feeling of so stuffed, the last thing in the world that you're thinking about doing is putting another bite of anything in your mouth. Even if that bite of anything is favorite pecan pie in the world, made by the best chef in the world, you feel so full and so grossed out by how you feel that that's the last thing in the world you think to bring in another bite of that pecan pie. That is exactly how the cell is feeling. That is exactly how the cell is feeling. The cells love glucose. They need glucose to function. It's their favorite food. But they are so full with fat. So full with fat. The last thing in the world the cell is thinking about is bringing in its favorite food into his mouth. Even though his favorite food will help him make energy. That's exactly what's happening here. And so you have insulin resistance like that. I'm going to flip over now. We follow. Can I hit the gas? We follow. Can I hit the gas? That's the first way in which we develop insulin resistance. Okay. All right. I'm going to hit the gas. Now, we'll talk about the second issue that develops insulin resistance. Too much insulin. Now, explain it like this. There is a one-to-one relationship between the concentration of glucose in the blood and the amount of insulin that is secreted by the pancreas. There is a concentration of the amount of glucose in the blood and the amount of insulin secreted by the pancreas. A one-to-one relationship. When glucose is high, the pancreas, that is the gland that produces insulin, produces a high amount of insulin to deal with that high. The pancreas has to produce insulin this high to match the glucose. One-to-one relationship. So how now play into the side of insulin resistance? Let's get to the board. So too much fat results in too much insulin. The second way in which we develop insulin resistance. Too much results in too much insulin. Yeah, too much insulin. Now, fat eating because glucose is accumulating in the blood. Okay? Glucose is accumulating in the blood because of the one-to-one relationship. The high amount of glucose accumulating in the blood triggers the high amount of high or too much insulin. Insulin is good, but too much insulin is no better. Remember, I described insulin to be like the CEO of the body, right? It sits at the peak. It dictates the structure and functioning of the body. Smooth. So imagine the CEO of a company. He comes to work one day and he has lost it. I'll flip back. Your CEO, you have us. Your boss comes to work one day. He's a CEO of the company. He's supposed to dictate the structure and functioning of the company. He comes to work one day and he lost it. He's gone crazy. He's backing out left and he's yelling in the hall. He's shoving people left and right. And you're gonna do this way or the highway, and you're like what? He just becomes erratic, tyrannical, a bully. That CEO has to maintain the structure and functioning of the company. When he begins to act like that, his employees lose their respect for him. If you have a boss that begins to act that erratic, bullying, tyrannical, giving unreasonable orders, you lose your respect for the boss. That is what too much insulin is. That is what too much insulin is. High insulin, too much insulin. Okay? That is what too much insulin is. High insulin or too much insulin is like a CEO of a company has gone crazy. Your boss that has gone nuts. That erratic, that is bullying people, being a tyrant, you will do away of the highway. And the employees of the CEO lose their respect for the CEO. Now, let me ask you guys, if you have a boss at work, if you work, you have a superior, you lose your respect for that boss. You don't respect the boss because of one, whatever it may be. When you don't have respect for somebody who is your boss, is it easy for you to do what they ask you to do, or is it hard? Let me get some answers. If your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, Shauna, have this project that you need to turn in the next 2 months. Can you get it done?" And that boss, you lost your respect for the boss. When the boss comes to you and tells you that, will it be easier for you jump up with excitement with all your heart to do that project when you don't have respect for the boss? For me, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. If somebody else agrees with the month, drop a comment. If I don't respect somebody, if you don't respect somebody, it's hard for you to do what they ask you to do. It's hard. So if my boss came to me, I don't have a boss, but if I had a boss and my boss came to me, yes, it's hard. I say, "Hey, Dr. Leader, we got this project. It's going to be needed in the next 8 days. Can you get together and get it done?" And if I lost my respect for the boss, it's hard for me to really do it. So I may do the project. Let's say I'm an A game performer. I always give my A game. Because I've lost respect for the boss. They often say, "Tell my boss, go hello." So if I have respect for the boss, when the boss tells me what to do, I have this project. If I'm a gamer, I give project because I lost my respect for the boss, give that project my system. I get it done at the deadline and get it over the line in 30 days, but I don't give boss my call because I lost respect for the boss. Same things with the sale. Too much insulin. It's like an ego that has gone cuckoo. The cells lose respect for insulin. When the cells lose respect for insulin, the cells fight harder. Like either if you think you're gonna shove me around and do this, then you know you're gonna have a hard time working me. The cells lose their respect for insulin. And when the cells lose their respect for insulin, number one thing that insulin tells the cells to do is do what? To open your door so that I can glucose. So because the cell has lost its respect for insulin, when insulin says open your door so I can let in glucose, it closes its doors. When the cell closes its doors, what happens is that it causes the cell shuts its doors anymore. It causes more glucose to accumulate. Okay. More glucose that accumulates in the blood triggers the pancreas to produce even more insulin because of the one relationship. Even more insulin. Okay. Now, if the CEO of the company was not crazy enough, even more insulin. You have gone from being a tyrant at this level to being a tyrant at this level. So cells, the employees of that CEO lose even more respect for the CEO. Translated to the cell loses even more respect for insulin and closes its door even tighter. Closing its door even tighter, it causes more to accumulate in the. You guys see where I'm going? It just becomes a vicious over. That's insulin resistance. That's how too much and too much insulin is insulin resistance. Let's talk about the second thing, dysbiosis. Spend some time there because it will be very important to see when we get to that. Dysbiosis. Let's talk about the second two things. Insulin resistance, dysbiosis, result all of these medical conditions. Now let's talk about dysbiosis. Okay, dysbiosis. Okay, before I'm going to explain to us what dysbiosis is. Come back to this. What I want to do to explain to you what the microbiome is, and you can easily understand what microbiome is. Okay. Now, so the slide I have here is a slide of the microbiome. The slide I put up here is the microbiome. Let's go to the explanation. What is the microbiome? The microbiome is in our gut. We have about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria live in our gut. 30 to 100 bacteria that live in our gut are called the microbiome. Okay, they form several different functions. The first function is of the microbiome is to help to digest fiber. You can see that at the top left hand corner. They have to digest fiber. The second to do is to protect us from bacteria. Disease bacteria. Okay, disease causing bacteria. And the way the protects us from disease causing bacteria is they produce a postbiotic biotic molecule called short-chain fatty acids. Okay? Short-chain fatty acids. Think the cells of the gut as lined together like this, cell to cell. Like, I think about my knuckles. My knuckle is like the security checkpoint, the tightness. So the microbiome, this 30, 100 trillion organisms, they produce the short-chain fatty acid. That short-chain fatty acid goes to these areas of my knuckles, the junctions here, and make it tight and firm. So it does not become so and firm. So it doesn't become loose like this. Because when it becomes loose like this, bacteria can seep into the blood and infection. So short-chain fatty acid way. Your cell should look like a cell right here. Here is called junction, and the junction is maintained by the short-chain fatty acids. They make it strong, tight, so no looseness. If you have the tightness there, instead of it looking like cell can look like this, cell can look like this, there is an opening here. In that opening, you can seep and the blood which is not going. So that's one thing. The short we use to help to protect the blood from disease impact. The other thing that it does, it helps to train them. And the last thing it does is use essential vitamins. Like here. When the immune system, I'll flip over. How biome to train the system is exactly how. So our microbiome, right? When your gut is healthy, what it does is that it trains the immune system to react healthily. The immune system is supposed to be your defense line to go to war for you when you're under attack. Okay? And your immune system is supposed to remain calm when you're not under attack. The microbiome trains the immune system to go to war to be calm when there's no reason. So this is how, hey, you see, tells the immune system. By the way, you may not know it. 70% of the body's immune system, 70% of the immune system resides in the gut. 70% of our immune resides in the gut. 70. Okay? 70% of the immune system. The other 30% resides in the lymph nodes, the lymphatics, the bone marrow. That's why the microbiome we training the immune system. Oh, how healthy training look like? This is how healthy training looks like. Hey, you see that bacteria there? This is what the microbiome is telling the immune system. That bacteria there, take him out. I'm going to go to war against that bacteria. Take him out. Hey, that other guy there, he looks like a bacteria. Not a bacteria. He's in camo. He's in camouflage. Do not shoot him. There's no reason to go to war. Stay calm. He's one of us. That is a health training that the microbiome is. When the microbiome is unhealthy, the microbiome gives the immune an unhealthy training. The microbiome says, how do we get our kids got? Remove processed and fiber. Remove sugar snacks and give your food to children whole foods, 100% animal and plant-based foods that your great-grandparents or your great-grandmother will recognize food and include a lot of fiber in it. So the unhealthy training to the microbiome is, you see that bacteria there? You could probably take him out with a handgun. Use a handgun. AK-47, blow his head out. So he goes to war. Yes, he needs to go to but it goes to war unnecessarily. It goes to war at the high age. When it could use a handgun to take out the bacteria, it uses an AK-47. The immune system has trained the microbiome to be like trigger. It just wants to shoot. Other thing is that when the microbiome is unhealthy, you see bacteria there. You see that there. It looks like he's in camo. You know, it also looks like he's a bacteria. I don't know if of us what. Just blow it off. We're gonna do an audit later and figure out whether it was in camo or it was a bacteria. So trains the microbiome. The microbiome trains the when it's unhealthy. Should ask questions there. So when you have a healthy microbiome, this is issues like this. It causes you to have this. On here you will see lupus. It's an autoimmune disease because the microbiome has attacked the body. See, Hashimoto is an autoimmune disease. Asthma, yes, it's an autoimmune disease. See, the microbiome is happy. It's attacking the cells of the body. No, it's not. So these are some of the things that happen when you have an unhealthy microbiome. The other thing that happens, you're surprised to see anxiety and depression on this list. At the bottom of the list is anxiety and depression. How many of you guys are surprised to see anxiety and depression on that list? I was. I have think about stuff about God and the between anxiety and depression. I was surprised. So if you're surprised to see that your God, unhealthy God, causes anxiety and depression, drop a surprise emoji in the chat. Let me explain to us why anxiety and depression is related to the God. And if you're listening anxiety and depression, you may just have your answer right here. You know that there is a neurotransmitter called serotonin. There is a neurotransmitter called serotonin. It's called that hormone. It's a neurotransmitter. This hormone helps maintain our mood. Okay, make sure that you guys. It helps. The hormone helps to maintain our mood. When you are, guess what? 90%, 90% of this is produced. 90%. 30%. Sorry, 10% of this hormone. 10% is produced in the nervous system. Just imagine, it's literally the factory for serotonin. If the gut is not healthy, the factory is not working well. If the factory is not working well, it doesn't. 90%. No doubt no doubt you have a depression. Now, these things that I have said, these things that I have said, some good. We know that dysbiosis results in disease. I know that insulin resistance, which I explained to us before, results in all of these diseases. But we now have strong evidence. We now have strong scientific evidence that if we were to reverse the core of the problem, you reverse the insulin resistance, you reverse the dysbiosis and restore the energy shortage, those diseases improve and cases go away. Reverse the root cause of the problem, those diseases are gone. And I explain like this. How many of you guys, How many of you guys have ever the gas and have the car stopped? How many of you guys have you ever run out of gas? Ever run out of gas? Up a comment in the chat, ran out, and your car stopped. I ran out of gas about 2 or 3 times in my life. The last time I ran out of gas was maybe 2012. I had to get a girlfriend to my rescue. I was married at the time, so I didn't find anything. The point that I'm trying to make is, if you're driving on the road, car runs out of gas, it's going to stop. Automatically, it's going. You know what? The car stops because there is an intrinsic failure of the engine. No, the car stops because it has run out of gas, fuel, juice to power the engine. The engine is perfectly fine. It just needs the energy to power it. So your car has stopped. When your car has stopped, it's a cell that has malfunctioned. Diseases. If you are 5 or 10 minutes away from the nearest gas station and you walk to that gas station, you walk back to your car on the side of the road and you pour gas in that tank. When you back and sit in the driver's and you turn on the ignition, you're going to hear this beautiful sound. The car rolls back to life. There's nobody who was ever run out of gas and when they put a gas in their tank, going, oh, would this have not even a thought. It's so automatic, you know. When I put my gas in my car, no thought is your mind. You worry that the car will not start. It doesn't even cross your mind. And the car starts. It's the same thing with the body, guys. It's the same thing with the body. These diseases that I mentioned as a result of energy deficiencies. It is so simple but so profound. Those energy deficiencies result in the diabetes, the blood pressure, the depression, the anxiety, the high cholesterol. Just like putting gas in that car and then start again. When you restore that energy shortage, those diseases go away. Just like that. It's so simple, so profound. I want to introduce to you guys a solution. The solution here is a system called the Feel Great system. The Feel Great system. Okay, I want to introduce you to a solution called the Feel Great system. The Feel Great system is made up of 2 products. The first product is called the Unimate, the second product is called the Balance. These 2 products go and reverse the core of the problem. They reverse the insulin resistance, they reverse the dysbiosis. When they reverse the insulin resistance and dysbiosis, your illness is away. Okay? You guys follow so far. I'm going to talk about these 2 products and how they reverse issues. So let's talk about the Unimate first, the very first word, Unimate. I'm waiting for people to talk about the Unimate. The very first is called that. The very first product in the field is called the Unimate. Unimate is made from a plant that is native to South America, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina. And this plant is called a yerba mate. Okay, yerba mate. Yerba mate. Okay, and by the way, these 2 products are what we call a nutraceutical. Okay, both products are what we call nutraceutical. I'll write that down. A nutraceutical. not a drug. A nutraceutical is a product that is made 100% from plants. 100% from plants and has health benefits. It has nutritional benefits. The more than nutritional benefits, it has health benefits. So that's the nutraceutical is. 100%. So what is the fact? And it contains a very special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. Okay? It contains chlorogenic acid. What chlorogenic is? Acid is a polyphenol. Okay? And this is a very important in reversing insulin resistance because this nutrient causes the body to burn chlorogenic acid, what we call lipase, which is fat burning. Okay? Now, let me explain to you how fat burning is going to cause you to have insulin. What I do, if you drink this, I drink every day. I'm drinking the Unimate. I drink 2 bottles of it every day. What it does when I drink it, it goes and causes my body to burn fat. And you will remember that when we develop insulin resistance, the first step in developing insulin resistance is that you had a cell that was filled with fat, right? You had a cell with fat. Cell was filled with fat, and then came another of this cell to take glucose. The cell said, "I saw there's no room in the ink," and the cell didn't stop glucose, and glucose accumulated in the blood. And you could not have glucose into make ATP. Now, you take the Unimate, which contains chlorogenic acid that causes fat burning. When you drink this now, it goes looking for places in your body where you have excess fat that has resulted in insulin resistance. So now, you take the Unimate, burn fat, burn fat. And when you burn fat cell that look like as your fat goes to looking this, it still has some fat, and not as much as it did here. There is now a lot more space in this cell to be able to get it. As you continue to drink, you continue to burn more. You continue to burn more. You continue to burn. This cell now goes to looking like this. Normal, back to normal. Free and doesn't have any fat in it. All the glucose in the blood that has accumulated, this cell is free, this cell is free. I'll take off all that glucose. When it takes off all that glucose can now go and turn ATP energy. Reverse insulin resistance, you have reversed the energy problem. The cell now turns on just like a turn on, here that beautiful cell. But doing that, you to burn fat, freeze the cell off its fat. You take off glucose to make energy. That's one way. The other thing is that it reverses the second step of insulin resistance. What makes you guys follow so far? If you are following so far, comment follow. What the name of the product you're drinking? Unimate, the very first thing I was talking about here. That is it right here. Unimate. That's drinking. Unimate. That's the name of it. So, and that's so. Let's go back to the board. That's the concept. This causes glucose to now go. The second way we developed insulin resistance, which was too much fat, too much insulin. step also gets taken. Remember the one-to-one relationship glucose concentration and insulin. When glucose concentration was high, had to produce too much insulin. And too much insulin in that cell was like that CEO that had gone cuckoo. Was a bull, ironical, backing up others, and the employees of the CEO lost their respect for the boss. Translation to the cell, insulin boom, the cell lost its respect for insulin, and because it lost its respect for insulin, it did less of what insulin asked it to do. It closed its doors to insulin and closed its door and let glucose enter the blood. Now, you have had a situation where the cell is not free. The glucose that had accumulated goes into the cell. Now that glucose goes into the cell, the glucose in the blood drops. Because glucose in the blood drops, concentration of insulin is going to. So you go from too much insulin to insulin. Insulin now. All right. Think of insulin. When insulin is low, it's like the boss that was cuckoo that has now become level-headed. He comes to his employees and says, "Hey guys, I'm sorry. I've been a check for the last 2 months. I'm sorry. Please will you forgive me? Can we start over?" My boss came to me in humility, a boss that I've lost respect for, and they came to me in sincerity and humility and told me, "Hey, Dr. DJ, I am sorry. I've been a jerk to you for 2 months. Please forgive us." How can you forgive? How can you not forgive the country as they made? That from my boss, I immediately forgive and gain my respect back for the boss. When I gain my respect back for the boss, I raise my game from a C game to a A game for that boss. I'm doing anything for him now. He asked me to do something, I'm more amenable to do it. Translate to self. When it becomes low, it's a bully that is no longer a bully. The CEO that is no longer tyrannic. Just like a bully on the playground that has been bullying the kids around, and one day comes to the playground and tells the kids, "I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Please forgive me." And he's a very Christian. There's psychology from a bully. He's like, I can survive. Let's play together. That's what happens when concentration goes low, insulin secretion goes low. Low insulin, the whole CEO has come back to earth. A bully that has become humble. The self forgives insulin and is now more open, to working with insulin and opening its doors to glucose. That's the automatic law of there's insulin resistance. Okay? You follow so far, you follow so far, you follow so far. Great, so that's the automatic. Make plant native to the South Americas. Amazing. It helps to reverse resistance and sugars, it removes cravings, it causes you to have mental clarity, a lot of benefits. In Argentina, this is very prominent. They call it the drink of gods, because of what it does for them. Now, which is the second product, the balance. The second product, balance, okay? The balance right down there is fiber. The manufacturer product took fiber from 5 different plants, complex, and put it into this. A fiber, please spell that again. It's just balance. BLAN. I'm gonna let you know where you could get it, by the way. If you went and try getting this through Amazon or whatever, it's going to charge you a high price. I could give you if you're interested in it, I will give you a discount code. With that discount code, you're going to be able to get it for a better price. If you run to Amazon or anywhere else to try to buy it, it'll be $130. If you use the discount code I give you, it'll be $159. If you're interested in this, I'll give you a code to get it. Now, this is made from plants. This is made from five different plants. Fiber does exactly, it's just fiber. Fiber does exactly what you lost. Okay? This process of preventing insulin resistance, fiber does exactly that. So imagine two people doing a job for you to do the job. And what would you want? If they told you that, hey, Dr. Peter, you could hire one person to into your home, but that painting job is going to be, it's a good guy. You could paint it, but that painting job is going to be 8% done to perfection. If you hire two people to paint your home, that painting job will be done 100%. It's a no-brainer. I want to use two. Two is better than one. So the balance is exactly the same thing in terms of preventing resistance by promoting fat burning. So exactly the same thing. But there is another thing that the balance does. A totally different thing that the balance does that helps to reverse insulin resistance also. What is that? Because the balance is filled with fiber. Fiber is very important in decreasing the glycemic index. If you are in the healthcare field, okay, you're a nurse, a pharmacist, a doctor, what have you, these two products, the Unimate and the balance, listed in the PDL, the physician's reference, as nutraceutical products that have health benefits. Okay? So they listed in the PDL, physician's reference. So this is what the balance does. It helps with the fiber. It helps to be able to bring down your glucose level. Fiber is very important, in balancing sugars, preventing or having cravings, but it helps to keep your blood sugars low. And let me explain it this way. This is exactly what fiber is, okay? This is exactly what fiber does. Fiber slows the transit of food through the colon, through the digestive tract. If food is supposed to move through the colon like this, fiber causes food to move through the colon like this. The slow transit of food through the colon means slow absorption. Slow absorption means slow release of glucose in the body. The fast transit of food through the colon means fast absorption. Fast absorption results in the fast release of glucose into the body. This way, I explain this. Let's say that you and I are like eating lasagna. You and I feel lasagna this afternoon. We decided that we're going to go to Italian restaurant to eat lasagna. Okay? So this is you, and this is me. Okay? We go to the Italian restaurant to eat lasagna. You don't know about fiber. You don't have a knowledge that fiber can bring down your glycemic index, your glucose, whereas I do. You don't know about the balance, whereas I do. So you play lasagna. A plate of lasagna costs you $45. But a plate of lasagna, also costs me $45. Okay? So you eat a plate of lasagna. Just go ahead and eat your plate of lasagna. Your blood sugar is going to spike like that and calm down in a few 1 to 2 hours. and that blood sugar spike will be blood sugar 80. But for me, I know a thing or two about balance. I know that it has fiber, and I know when I eat it first, when I take this first, and then I eat the lasagna, it's going to balance my blood sugar. So I take this same balance, right? This same balance. I eat it first, and then I eat my lasagna. This is what my blood sugar is doing. Mind blowing. I have, that's my blood sugar. You and I have eaten the same plate of lasagna. In fact, both ate the same quantity of lasagna. Isn't that mind blowing? Your blood sugar went up to 180. It's not effective fiber. My blood sugar went up to 90 because fiber slows things down. Why is that important? That is important because of the one-to-one relationship between glucose concentration and insulin production. So because you have reduced your blood sugar up to 180, pancreas is going to have to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to deal with that 180. So your pancreas to produce 20 units of insulin here. 20 units of insulin. Okay. Me, I only produced, my blood sugar went up to 90. So my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of glucose to deal with that blood sugar of 90. So for me, my pancreas is going to produce maybe units of insulin. I want you to think of this. When your insulin is high, it's like CEO that on crazy, okay? So your insulin is too is the crazy CEO. The crazy CEO that is to respect translation, cells lose respect for insulin when it's too high and makes you insulin resistant. The low insulin here, 5 level head CEO is humble. The humble CEO. The employees are more likely, to work with him, to do what the CEO says. Translate to the cell is more likely to work with insulin. So that is how fiber taking in fiber can have a insulin resistance. Now, just to make sure you guys are still there with me. All the things about fiber, that because it does is going to cause you not to gain weight. What do I mean by that? Insulin, this insulin is a weight gain hormone. When insulin is high, it causes you to store calories. Insulin is what we call an hormone. It causes storage of things to proliferate, grow big. So for you, because you use more insulin and you're going to store more calories that lasagna meal than I did, and you and I ate the same plate of lasagna. So for you who put units of insulin, this lasagna gain 950 calories. For me, because my sugar went to 90 and I made just 5 units of insulin, that same plate of lasagna, exactly the same quantity that you had, I may only gain 450 calories. That's half. You're now paid the same amount of dollar by $5.25. The same quantity of lasagna. Your blood went up to 180. Mine went up to 90. The only difference is that I did this. You produce 20 units of insulin. 5 units of insulin. You gain 150 gain 450 calories. Who's better off? Me or you? Who is better off? Me or you? And the difference is that. Now, the last thing that five loss, the very last thing five loss, the very last thing the balance is that is food to the biome. So let me put my biome here. So food the microbiome. Okay, this organism. Remember, I said that we live in they live in an organism. Sorry, I forgot to define what this is. You know, this process is when you have an increase in the microbiome population. So the bacteria are supposed to be at 50-50% bacteria, 50% good bacteria, 50%. Okay? Now, when this biosis, microbiome function, the bad bacteria increase in number, go to 80%, good bacteria decrease in number, maybe go to 20. And the number one reason for this biosis, you know, when you have a bacteria issue, number one reason for that is, you know, of food, shortage of food, fiber. Our foods are so processed, we are not consuming enough fiber. Because we are not consuming enough fiber, we're having all these issues. If you're a man in the United States, it's recommended this, that a man, average man is supposed to take a man is supposed to take in 10 grams of fiber a day, at least, and a woman is to take in and is supposed to take in 5 grams of fiber a day. The national NIH estimates that in the United States, the average man and woman takes in 10 to 12 of fiber a day. Fiber is very important in blood control and dysbiosis. And preventing dysbiosis. No wonder we have this. So how do you dysbiosis? Dysbiosis. Well, consume fiber, which is food, the microbiome, those bacteria in our gut. There's a short. When there is shortage of food, what happens is that the bad bacteria, the stronger bacteria, they hoard little fiber, the little food that is there, and then to hold of food, they increase the army. Let's increase that army so we could keep a monopoly hold on this food. So they increase the army now at the expense of good bacteria. And when imbalance in good bacteria, you have this. When you have doses, all of this function of the microbiome become compromised. You know, fiber helps with this. So I will end by saying this. The Felix system is hope. Is hope because it helps to reverse the insulin resistance and the dysbiosis. The Felix system made up of these two things. The has helped to reverse insulin resistance and dysbiosis. And if you reverse insulin resistance and dysbiosis, you could claim your health again. And that's what the Feel Great offers. It offers you the ability to reclaim your health again. Now, I'm going to show you are interested in getting the Feel Great, the Unimate and the balance. If you suffer from chronic illnesses, and this has been useful information to you. If you use the same, I could give you guys my go here. with me. Give me 1 second. QR code. You can just use this QR code and you should be able to. You guys give me 1 second. All right. I'm just you. Get you. Go. So, if you have listened to this and the information intrigues you're interested in, this, just take a picture of this code, scan that, and when you scan that, it could take you right to the company and the Unimind. And if you're in the field, you're curious what you could go on to you could go on to the physician desk reference and look up Unimind, look up balance. Again, I say if you were to go to Amazon, or you go on directly to the company and Unicity, to try to get it, without a discount, it will be about $200. If you use this QR code, which has a discount code attached to it, you get it for $150, and it lasts to 30 days. When you get it, when you use the link to get it, it's going to link you up to me. So I'll tell you about it. I'll send you some information on how to use it. I'll be a personal coach, directing you on what to do and how to take it on. So you're not just going to be swimming in the ocean alone. If you choose to do this right to help you with you're going to get the right message from me. I'm going to be your coach to help you through this journey. I want to end by showing you guys of people who change their lives doing this. I'm going to start with me, okay? I'm going to start with me. My life changed using this, and I want to show you some pictures. Now, if you have any questions, I hope you have a picture of that. I'll put that up again. You could scan that, take a picture of that. If you have any trouble in that, be able to get the manufacturer's site to order, please let me know. Send me a direct message. I don't mind trying to help you figure it out. Okay. So this is me. That's a picture of here. You could not see. I was getting tired easily, craving a lot of snacks, and I had high cholesterol. My cholesterol was 260. After being on this, a friend of mine, the pediatrician doctor, told me about this, about these products. After being on this, you see it again, using my 10. After being on this for 2 months, this was my transformation. Just 2 months, to reverse my insulin resistance and lose. One of the things insulin resistance will do to you will cause you not to be able to lose weight. The thing for me is that I had high cholesterol. This was my total cholesterol. My total cholesterol was 261. Okay, 261. In a space of 3 months, in the space of 3 months, using this, my total cholesterol went down from 261 to 197. This was my LDL, what you bad cholesterol. My bad cholesterol went from 207 to 188 just by using this. So that is me. Sometimes when you talk about this, you guys to know that I have experienced that too. It's been revolutionary for me. Like, I no longer cook snacks and cats, whatever. For the time I'm one weight and energetic. This is what people. This is my twin sister. My twin sister also had a weight problem, and this is 2 months being on it. This is the last 26 2 months, transformed. I showed you all the pictures now of he had lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. That's on. She reversed all of that and she lost 40 pounds in doing that. This is somebody before after picture on the product. Before after. This also helps with acne. You have a teenager at home, so acne, insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, they go. Insulin resistance causes inflammation, causes you to age. This patient, this person, look at how young and more beautiful, just by aging, because reversing insulin resistance inflammation. So, this is Jonathan. Jonathan used to be an SFL player. He had psoriasis that covered his whole back. He lost 50 pounds, 50 days using this. The psoriasis in his that was a result of energy shortage. He no longer from that anymore. This is John. John was a diabetic for 25 years. He didn't want on the product of the balance. John no longer diabetic. He also on his soul that was taking long 10 months. That's John. I like to listen to Jimmy here. This is Jimmy. And I want you to listen to Jimmy's story. I do. I was able to reverse insulin resistance. This is Jimmy. What was life like for you? And it was crazy. 12 years ago, I was hyperthyroidism, and I had that this. My thyroid and declining, gaining weight. Next thing I was diabetic. And life was really life changed. Since I started the protocol, I actually found out and trying to give it a shot using my money back. And then I had to really give it. I didn't know where direction to go. Actually stuck. So we had consistency. In 90 days, I was I started going to normalizing. It was wrong. Erectile dysfunction was gone. So the question for diabetes with stage 4, absolutely. There was somebody um, who had stage 4 kidney disease, and they reversed their stage 4 kidney disease, no longer have stage 4 kidney disease, no longer have diabetes. So this is absolutely everything you need if you have stage 4 kidney disease, if you have diabetes. Reverse those things. Can you try on GLP-1? Yes, you could, but I recommend that you, what this does, this is natural GLP-1. It causes the body, when you drink this and you take this, it causes the body to produce its own GLP-1. You know that GLP-1s are hormones that are made in our body for us to feel hungry. The pharmaceutical industry is taking that hormone, gone to the lab and made a clone to help us not to feel hungry, to lose weight. When you consume these two products, they cause your body to produce their own natural GLP-1. So the patients I have worked with in the past on GLP-1s, I usually ask them, when you taking this, stop GLP-1s because it's superior to GLP-1s. Yeah. So let's see if I could show you. I love this story. This is a story of Sue. Sue was a diagnosed as dementia. Welcome to Jen. If you have any at all, direct message the link. Thank you for joining the club. This is Sue. Sue. Diabetes. Was diagnosed as dementia. Her family was even planning to have a nursing home. Okay, and Sue had on TikTok, had somebody talking about this TikTok, and decided to give him 2 months of her life. Look at how she's HD friendly. If I saw on this side, I'm gonna answer your question. If I saw Sue, I mean, Dieter, the grandmother, I'll be like, yeah, she looks like a grandmother. She acts like a grandmother. She smells like a grandmother. And if you told me that this, it will not be obvious that she's a grandmother. That's what it did for her. Will it help lower cholesterol levels? Yes. Let me show you my cholesterol. What that did to my cholesterol. My total cholesterol was 261. Within 3 months on this brought my total cholesterol down to 107. Okay, LDL was 207. Within 3 months of being on it brought it down to 138. So yeah, lower your cholesterol. And the many other people had them. This is a before and after picture of another person's transformation. Okay, this is 280 pounds, using the products. This is a nurse. A1C went down 14 to 5. Is no longer the difference. Let me see. I can show you some other differences. People like change. I want to show you somebody whose cholesterol went down. Here we go. This lady's triglycerides went down from 249 to 7. There's others here. Let me see. This is another person before and after. This person's went down from 6.6. Sleep is gone. The fatigue is gone. This person lowered the cholesterol and the triglycerides. So and that's the before and after for that person. So yes, you get your cholesterol down. See if I find another the cholesterol. This is also if this type 2 diabetes or blood pressure, triglycerides, no longer on medications. So, what is that? This I'll show you guys one more way, to get. But just go on to, if you go on to my profile, right on my TikTok profile, on my bio, right there, you see on here HTTPS. You click that. Click that. It's gonna bring up, two of these right here. The first and the second. All you need to do is to that first link right there. When you hit that first right there, it's going to take you to the page of the manufacturer that makes the product. And all you do is buy now. Buy now is going to take you, where, to the place where the right product has been selected. You could pick your levels. One of the other, it just picks the different levels that you might take, or different levels of balance. You order it. This is 2 boxes of the unit and 1 box of balance. It's going to last 30 days. And then after that, you just add to cart. When you add to cart, it's going to bring you to this page that says checkout. If you use this link, you're going to have $150. It's going to $150 subscription, which will anytime. If you don't use it, will cost you $169. If you choose not to use this, and perfectly fine, and you want to go get on Amazon, $235. If I go in line on Amazon, you see people selling it on Amazon for $109. That $109 selling it is for 2 boxes, whereas the company sells 3 boxes for $150. So, if you try it, do not go on Amazon, do not go anywhere else to pay a higher price. If you're not paying a high price, you get Amazon. But if you try it and you want to use a discount for cost less, then you should go on. Use the link to go on. So, I want to begin by saying thank you very much for joining live. Something I had not done before. I wanted to keep doing this full like this. I think I'm gonna do this over and over again to try to get the word out. This one medical condition on face today, if I gave you a time machine and I asked you to do 100 years back in the past, you're gonna notice that none of our ancestors had this disease. None of them. And so disease is a result of our lifestyle. And the good news is you can reverse the energy shortage and reverse the disease. Remember that you put gas, that started working again. If you use this to be able to restore energy shortage, disease you're suffering from. Thank you guys so much for joining my life. My name is Dr. Dieter. My mission is to help you reclaim your health by treating more. Thank you. I'm glad you're gonna try it, and I'm gonna be your coach and support. So have any issues with trying to order it or questions or what have you, please reach out to me. My name is Dr. Dieter, and it is my mission to help each and every one of you reclaim your health by treating curable medical conditions by focusing on the root cause. Thank you.